Once upon a time, in a quiet town where the houses stood close together and everyone thought they knew each other's lives, there lived a young boy named Daniel. What if I told you that behind the doors of one of those houses, a terrible secret was growing? A secret that would change Daniel's life forever. What if I told you that love, which is supposed to bring comfort, became the very thing that tied him in chains? Stay with me to the very end, because this story will make you think, it will make you wonder, and it might even leave you speechless. And before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and leave a comment, because your support helps us share more powerful folk tales and life stories like this one. Daniel was a gentle boy with curious eyes. His parents loved him dearly, but like many parents, they worried about their own parents too. His grandmother, Bridget, lived alone after the passing of her husband. She was respected in the community as a strong woman who had seen much in life, but she carried a shadow of loneliness in her heart. Daniel's parents thought it would be good for him to spend more time with her, to bring joy into her quiet days. They believed she would care for him with kindness, as grandmothers often do. But little did they know that their decision would open a door that would trap Daniel in years of silence and pain. At first, life with Bridget seemed warm. She smiled often. She cooked Daniel's favorite meals, and she told him stories about the past. She treated him like he was the most important person in her life. For a young boy, this was comforting. He felt special, wanted, and loved. But slowly, that love began to change. It became heavier, darker, and more demanding. Bridget's affection turned into something controlling. She wanted Daniel to herself, and she made him feel guilty whenever he tried to pull away. It started with small things, like telling him not to spend too much time with his friends, or reminding him that she was the one who truly understood him. Daniel, too young to see the danger, obeyed. After all, she was his grandmother. He trusted her, but trust can sometimes be the weapon that wounds the deepest. Bridget began to manipulate him, twisting her words until Daniel could no longer tell what was right and what was wrong. When she scolded him, she would say it was for his own good. When she demanded his silence, she said it was to protect the family. And when she crossed the lines that should never be crossed, she made him believe it was their secret, one that must never leave the walls of her house. If he spoke out, she told him, terrible things would happen. People would hate him. His parents would be ashamed. He would be alone. And so, Daniel carried her secret, like a stone chained to his heart. The years went by. On the outside, Daniel looked like any other boy. He smiled when people expected him to smile. He went to school. He grew taller. He grew stronger. But inside, he was breaking. The weight of silence crushed him every day. He wanted to scream, but fear held his tongue. He wanted to run, but where could he go? And all the while, Bridget continued to tighten her grip, feeding her own loneliness with his stolen innocence. Then came the tragedy that changed everything. Daniel's parents, who had always been his hope, were taken from him in a sudden accident. One moment they were alive, and the next they were gone. Daniel was left standing in a world that seemed colder than ever. He inherited their wealth, the house and the land. People whispered about how lucky he was to have so much at a young age, but they did not know that inside, Daniel felt cursed. The one person who had always manipulated him now had even more control. Bridget stepped into the role of caretaker again, not out of love, but out of hunger for control. She disapproved of every decision he made, every friend he tried to keep, and every woman who came close to him. She poisoned his mind with doubt, telling him that no one truly cared for him, that everyone was after his money, and that he should remain close to her. Daniel tried to fight back in small ways. He tried to build relationships, to laugh, to live. But Bridget was always there, with sharp words and dark threats. He felt trapped again, just as he had been as a boy. And yet, somewhere deep inside, a small flame of courage began to grow. He started to see that if he did not break free, he would lose himself forever. The turning point came when Daniel met Blessing, She was gentle, kind, and unlike anyone he had known before. Blessing saw through his pain. She noticed the way his eyes carried sorrow, even when his lips smiled. She listened to him without judgment, and slowly, Daniel began to trust her. For the first time in his life, he told someone the truth. He told her about Bridget, about the manipulation, about the years of silence and fear. Blessing held his hand and told him something no one had ever said. "It was not your fault." Those words broke the chains in his heart. For the first time, Daniel felt hope. But Bridget was not ready to let go. When she realized Daniel was slipping away from her control, she grew desperate. She tried to blackmail him again, reminding him of his silence, warning him of the shame that would come if he spoke out. She even tried to use another woman, Sandra, who knew fragments of his secret, to keep him chained. But Daniel was different now. He was tired of fear. He was tired of living in the shadows. He gathered his courage and made a decision that would change everything. He would tell the world. Standing before the community, Daniel spoke. His voice trembled, but his words were clear. He told them about the years of manipulation, about the abuse, about the silence that had nearly destroyed him. At first, the people were shocked. Some gasped, some wept, some refused to believe. But Daniel did not stop. He knew this was his moment, his truth, and he would not be silent anymore. As he spoke, something incredible happened. The chains that Bridget had wrapped around him for so long began to break. The shame that had lived in his heart began to fade. For the first time, Daniel felt free. Bridget, on the other hand, could not bear it. Her face turned pale, her hands shook, and in her rush to escape the scene, tragedy struck. An accident claimed her life that very day. Some called it fate, others called it justice. But for Daniel, it was the end of a long nightmare. Sandra, who once tried to blackmail him, found that her power vanished too. Without the weight of Daniel's silence, she had nothing left to hold over him. Her threats became empty words, and she faded into the background, powerless. And Daniel? He began a new chapter. With Blessing by his side, he discovered what real love meant. Love that heals, not love that wounds. Love that sets free, not love that controls. Together they built a life of peace. For the first time, Daniel could laugh without fear. He could dream without chains. He could live without shadows. This tale, though dark, carries a lesson as bright as the morning sun. It reminds us that silence can be heavy, but truth can set us free. It teaches us that even in the darkest moments, courage can bring light. And it shows us that love, when true, can heal even the deepest wounds. So, dear listener, what do you think of Daniel's journey? Have you ever known someone trapped in silence, afraid to speak their truth? If this story touched your heart, make sure to subscribe to this channel and leave a comment below. Share your thoughts, share your feelings, and let us continue to learn from stories like this one. Because in every story, there is a lesson, and in every lesson, there is hope.